New edition of the Winning Plays podcast, and the Boston Celtics have fallen in the NBA playoffs in 2022 for the first time, beaten quite handily by the Milwaukee Bucks in Game 1 on Sunday at the TD Garden. My name is Brian Robb. Pleasure to be joined by Brendan Jackson of Celtics Hub here for some instant reaction. B-Jax, how are you?
Doing well. Could be better if I'm from a Celtics perspective, but other than that, can't complain.
I think you're putting it kindly there from a Celtics perspective. This team could start in a lot of different directions from this game, but I think we got to go with the offense first here. The Celtics, they lose 101 to 89. Their offensive efficiency in this game is 89.3 per 100 possessions, which is, I believe, the second worst number of the entire season for the team. Going back, the only time was like when they got their doors blown off by the Raptors in the second game of the regular season at home. A lot has changed since then, B-Jax. This team has been almost an offensive juggernaut since late January. The defense kind of showed up today. They played pretty well overall. We'll get to them, but there is still plenty of room for improvement there. But if you're looking at the blame pie offensively today, where do you start? Player, coaching, et cetera? Or just crediting the Bucks? Like what direction you go in?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of everything, to be honest. I think what made today so jarring was exactly what you said. We haven't seen this team as constructed play this badly. Most of the bad games were in the first half of the season. Yeah, you can point to like that weird game against the Pacers, those late collapses against the Pistons, but you chalk those up to regular season back-to-backs. There's a lot of wonkiness there, but we're in the playoffs. They had a long layoff. They just came off a really, really convincing, great series sweep of the Nets, and this was a bummer. So from an offensive perspective, obviously the first two people you look at are Tatum and Brown. They, except for Tatum, those like couple of threes he had were, I think it was like, I want to say the third quarter, but anyway.
Yeah, he got rolling. Yeah, he had a couple back-to-back there that kept him in the game at one point. I think you're right, in the third quarter.
Yeah, it sort of gave you that feeling like, oh, he might take over, and this might sort of have that familiar feeling again. And obviously it did not. So I think it starts and ends with those two guys. Everyone else is who they're going to be, very surprised to see Derek White hit 2 threes today.
Yeah. Right. He was, before that, he was terrible.
He was absolutely terrible.
He was a really bad first quarter for him. But yeah, but we'll go to the supporting guys. Well, so let's start. I think we need to start with Jaylen Brown. And I know you're a big Jaylen Brown guy. Understandably so this year. But this was the perfect storm of bad for Jaylen Brown in terms of settling a lot for threes. He made a couple at the end so he went 3 of 9, which looks respectable. But there were a lot of open misses early, and then 4 of 13 overall. But the big thing is 7 turnovers. For the Celtics had 18 as a team. It was a horrendous day for just ball handling, decision-making period there. But Jaylen, he tried to be a playmaker and just did not. It showed why he was not that guy for a lot of his career.
Yeah, it was weird. I try not to read too much into it and say, this is who he is. I think he's just like really, I'm hoping one really bad game from him. But you have to wonder, how badly is that hamstring bothering him?
Yeah.
His shot, his jumping was weird. Like all of this stuff was weird. He didn't have like those like he couldn't, his first step wasn't there either. He felt like he couldn't get by. And your first instinct is to say, well, the Bucks, are a good defensive team. They play together and they put a lot of length on him. He was trying to go by guys like Giannis and things like that. But they've played the Bucks before and been fine. They've not played this badly against the Bucks. And you can say playoffs, they turned it up. But it's concerning. But for Jaylen Brown's perspective, I wonder how badly that hamstring's bothering him. He just didn't look right to me.
And to your point, he only took 4 2-point attempts, which again, some of that is,
that was the game. No one took any.
Right. No one took any. And for good reason, because Celtics shot like 10 of 34 So it was a franchise record for fewest 2-point shots made in a game, which is crazy. It was by a lot. Like I think the previous low was like 14. And so you look at, okay, how did this happen? It's like, okay, like, I mean, Brook Lopez and Giannis were monsters down low. They blocked there, but the Celtics clearly, there were two things. Like they obviously didn't move the ball enough or hit enough threes to pull those guys out of the paint. And then when they got in there, they like tried it a couple of times, and guys like Jalen, you'd think would try, over and over. But like you said, I think whether it's the hamstring, whatever, he wasn't totally right. The burst wasn't totally there. And then he tried to compound that by, just making some bad reads with passing and, trying to make the right play. But there's a fine line there against when you're going from the Nets, which every passing lane's available, to the Bucks, where it's like, no, we know what you're trying to do here. And we're going to try to take away option A, B, and one of C or D and leave you with, a tough choice to make.
Totally. I mean, this is going to sound really lame, but it's almost like the Celtics were settling for good shots and not trying to find great shots.
Yeah.
And that's what they did a lot in the net series. They were finding, they were giving up, pretty open shots for even wide, more wide open shots. And so they didn't do that. It was like the first smart made three of the game. He had a hand in his face, and I was like, that could either be really good news or really terrible news. And it turned out it was really terrible news. Every sort of, this goes back to also maybe they felt they were pressing a little, they're a little too geeked up for this game. So like, I'm open, I have to shoot it. It was obviously drilled in. We're going to shoot threes.
Right.
And then going to the paint, though, going back to what you're saying, like they were able, at least in the first half, to draw some defenders, and the lob for Robb was open a couple of times, and they missed him. Obviously, he had a couple, but like they missed a couple of those, and honestly, like a lot of tips didn't go in. It was a weird game.
They missed a lot of looks. They shot terribly too. Like, there's no. I mean, I think ESPN had a stat. It was like 2 of 23 on contested twos, and that's just. I mean, it's just not going to happen again.
Yeah. Here's the bummer, though, right? Like, as much as like we can say that, the Bucks didn't shoot that well either.
Right. Well, that's the thing.
It's like
Giannis has one of his worst shooting games ever in the playoffs. So it's like, okay, like what?
But credit Horford and credit Robb, and like, he did not finish well at the rim, and I think it's a good credit to those guys. I honestly do. I mean, like, granted, like you think he's going to finish more, but I don't know. It felt like a lot of those were really tough that he had to make. I mean, he had to throw it off the freaking backboard to get an open shot. I don't know. I just want to have one silver lining out of this game.
Yeah, no, the defense was, the defense, don't take that any day of the week. Yeah. I mean, Giannis, the one thing, and they'll look at the tape and they'll be like, you know what? They effed up a lot.
Yeah.
With like defensive, just helping off, like
way too zealous over helping.
Way too like smart. And Giannis, like, to his credit, I think I've watched a decent amount of Giannis this year, but his passing has reached a new level now where you're like, okay, you can't just like make the wall and then be like, all right, then we know Giannis is going to like run into the wall. No, he's smart now. He's going to be like, find Grayson Allen or find Connaughton or whoever. And those guys, when they're wide open, can hit enough to make you pay. And they didn't shoot great today, but they got enough against when the Celtics were dismal to get the job done.
Yeah, it's really cool to see Giannis get to that point where, it's like elite passers can get into like the lane going baseline and then get walled off and then fire it one-handed out to a three and actually have it hit in the shooting pocket and like have someone be ready to shoot. And like he did that today, and it was at the top of the key, and it was just like, ooh, if he's added that to his game, this is going to be this is going to be a lot harder than people think it will be. That being said, though, I want to go back to the wonkiness of this game. Like, as much as I'm like annoyed, I don't know, 1 p.m. start, weird layoff. They were obviously really geeked up thinking that Middleton, like they were excited not to play against Chris Middleton.
Yes.
And I think they let their guard down. I think they're also reading their press clippings a little too much, just feeling themselves a little too much. I really do. Cause like they kind of came out, when I say geeked up, I just mean sort of like excited, but they didn't like play that hard. Like
Horford said after the game, like they played harder than us.
It's crazy. And yeah, especially guys like Grayson Allen. You can't let a guy like Grayson Allen play harder than you, right? You think Giannis, it's going to be hard to play harder than that guy. It's going to be hard to play harder than a guy like Bobby Portis, who's a maniac. You know what I mean? But like, other guys, you can play harder than those guys and you can be more physical. And I think, I just think everything just went against them. Even when they got a couple stops and you thought, oh, maybe they'll go on a run, they immediately turn the ball over. And it's like, look, off of nothing. And you're just like, what are you doing? It's just weird game.
It really was. I mean, they were up by 8 points in the first quarter, which I honestly even forgot about. So like I looked at the box score after the game. And then even in that stretch where the Bucks were just turning it over like crazy in the first quarter, the fact that the Celtics weren't capitalizing on a lot of those, like they had fast breaks that they kind of blew, where like the Bucks were just busting their ass back in transition and taking easy looks away and creating havoc. And so once Milwaukee seemed to get their bearings, and then it was like, okay, like they do what they do. They were really locked in defensively. And I mean, again, the Celtics, they knew this was coming. It was just a matter of, getting like you said, finding the great shots against the Bucks is a lot harder than finding the great shots against the Nets. Like
totally.
And that's and finding, and then because sometimes you try to find the great shot and you wait too long and then they recover and then you're back to square one. So it's like the push and pull of that is going to be their challenge all series long here.
Right. Which is why that if they're as good as we think they are, that, they will adjust and they will be able to sort of settle in. But it's just weird because the Bucks, like I said before, they didn't shoot that well either. But also like I felt like, and I watched a good amount of the Milwaukee Chicago series. I felt like the Bucks played way better today than they did against the Bulls at all. Like I felt like the Bulls just were terrible and injury. Obviously they were missing a bunch of key guys, but like they just looked terrible. And so like I didn't really get the sense that Milwaukee was dominating as much as the Bulls were just shooting themselves in the foot constantly. And maybe Milwaukee does that. I mean, obviously they did it to the Celtics today. A lot of that stuff, there were some unforced errors, but it kind of felt like Milwaukee was really taking it to them and forcing those, picking up guys at half court and like really
Javon Carter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Plus 25.
I saw that.
He wasn't that good, but it was.
I know. I need to rewatch it and like, oh my God, that wide open three in transition from Javon Carter killed me. Because again, talking about, the Bucks got back, the Celtics never got back. They never in this game, they did not have that extra gear to like actually want to make a run. In that Javon Carter transition three, it was like Peyton Pritchard got back. He got in Giannis's way, and Giannis could have just like gone around him, but no, he found Javon Carter, and then Peyton Pritchard had to like try to contest that shot. It was just like, what are we doing here? No one's getting back, but this little 5'11" guy.
Right.
It's just
exactly. And then that bigger point, like if you think back to 2019, and obviously it's a far different scene for both teams, but like in that series, the Bucks bench kicked the absolute crap out of the Celtics bench, like every single game. And the guys like George Hill and Connaughton in that series, they just like were making the plays on both sides of the floor to end any of the Celtics chances in that series. And again, today, the Celtics bench, they were great in that series, but they got their ass kicked.
Yeah.
And like Carter, Connaughton, Allen, like all those guys shot 50% or better. And the Celtics, Pritchard had a rough shooting night. Grant Williams was like, okay, but still not, it was a minus 15. And then you look at, Derek White, we talked about too, who's been, he had
a much better second
half. And they need him to be that guy. Like you need to be that. This is like, you need to be the answer here. You can't be the fourth best player coming off the bench in the series. You need to play like
you need to be a six man.
Right.
Totally. Yeah. Especially since the Celtics really don't have a backup point guard behind Smart. They have White and they have Pritchard, who White is more of a slasher who can handle, and Pritchard is a guy who shoots threes, and is going to play hard, but he's not like a backup point guard. And I love how you brought up 2019, because I've been thinking about it all day, because the Celtics beat Milwaukee handily in game one. And we felt real happy about ourselves. Right. And then obviously things
changed.
Yeah. So I'm hoping a little reverse happens a little bit. This is a nice little wake up call. And I know we'll probably get to predictions. We'll probably talk about game 2 and the rest of the series in a minute, but like, that's sort of a preview. I'm hoping that that's sort of a reverse.
Nice pull there. I didn't even think about that.
That's the only thing I was sort of
that's it, right? That's
to,
right. Some lines are tough to go. One other part of this game, this didn't really wasn't a huge deal to me, but I do think the Celtics kind of ruined, and this is not a knock on Ime, but once, the fourth quarter, they were down, I think like 7 or 8 at the beginning of the quarter. The lineup that when Ime went Jaylen Brown and like the bench essentially, go for Robb, and go like the game was over because that team, that there's just no one, there was no offense on the floor there because it was the way Jaylen was a net negative on offense today, period.
Totally.
So that, like, the Bucks kind of pushed the lead up to 9-11 there, and then obviously they got rolling by the time the Stars got back in. But stuff like that, like, they're gonna have to be very, Ime did a great job of this against the Nets in terms of like pushing the buttons with lamps there. That was one where I was like, okay, this is like you just can't afford to have nothing going on for those 3 minutes, and that's end up what happened.
Well, I just wonder if Ime during this game was like, okay, this is going to be a longer series than the one we just had. I can't play Tatum the whole quarter, hoping that we lose by 4, instead of by 12 or whatever. So like, I'm wondering if that was it, but down by 8 with this team, that can get erased really quickly. So it was a little bit of a bummer not to see Tatum play the whole fourth quarter and just try to see what they could do. I mean, if it was 20, I would have felt differently. But obviously it was only 8, like you said, and they did make a little run and then they just stretched it again. Like, it was crazy. I think it got down to like 5 at one point, and like the Celtics had the ball to like,
that was a third quarter. Yeah.
That was a third quarter. Okay. But you know what I mean? Like
right.
it was feeling like good. And then they turned it over. And then the Bucks went on like an 8-0 run. And it was like,
right.
Something like
that. They couldn't there's plenty of time where they're within striking distance through the first 15 minutes of the second half. And then once the Bucks started getting off to the races and transition again, then that was a wrap.
I think the biggest coaching question mark I have is that everyone was talking about how, like, all week, everyone was like, the Bucks give up a bunch of threes. And unless you're like the Warriors, you're typically not going to win. And the Celtics were like, well, we'll show you. And then, shot 36%, 18 for 50. They took 53s in this game. Like,
second most of the season.
Yeah, it's just not going to get it done. And a lot of them were contested. Like, it's not even like getting that wide open. There were a couple wide open ones, but like not even getting those wide open threes. Like, they were contested threes. And so, and you can say, well, when you're down, right, you tend to shoot more threes. But it was just not, if you're going to play that, then play Hauser and Stauskas minutes. Like, put those guys in the corner. You're saying a guy like that can't foul Brook Lopez as well as someone else? I don't know. If you're going to shoot that many threes, put your best shooters out there. I know he won't. Like, there's no chance these guys.
No, there's no, unless they go down like 3-0 and are like trying anything. But you're right. Like, those guys, in theory, that should be like a wrinkle that's way down the playbook list. But yeah, but do you want to see them lead? Like, how much do you want to see them lean into the shooting lineups for this purpose? Like, okay, if you guys are going to shoot like this, like, you need to have the guys out there that can, like, make them pay for this, which is, Pritchard in theory, he was 8 shots in 11 minutes. Like, he was firing today, which is like, okay.
But like, he had 2 or 3 that were bailout and a shot clock.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
It
was bad offensive possessions.
Right, exactly. So I don't want to pin that on him. It was like either that or get a team turnover, and it's like, that's fine for your regular season, but no, you're trying to win the game. So throw up a prayer. So yeah, in terms of adjustments, like I just want them to play better. I actually don't think they need to make a ton of adjustments. I think they need to play harder, more physical, and not like, They had a chance to get Drew Holiday in foul trouble, and they had a chance to get Giannis in foul trouble.
Yeah,
and they lost the Giannis on the bench minutes. Like, that was the worst part. Like, they stretched the lead when Giannis went to the bench, and it was like, so that when that happened, it was like, this is not going to happen, right? You need to take advantage. You need to go on like a 10-0 run that forces Bud's hand to put him back in, and when he doesn't want to. and they didn't do it. And so I think for game 2, like, I just think go out there and play better. You did a good job on Giannis. Drew Holiday shot worse than I thought he did. It felt like he made every big shot.
It was 3 for 5 from 3. So he had missed a lot of like layups, but he hit a lot of big ones, like you said.
It's crazy because obviously he's not known as a shooter. So 3 for 5, it sticks out in your mind, but I don't remember him missing a bunch of 2s. I just don't, but he did. So like
it happened.
The worst part is, like, I think Portis is going to play a little worse. He's not as good as he played today. He's just not. But Drew might play a little better offensively. And that's a little scary if you're a Celtics fan.
And the scariest part's like, if he's out playing Tatum, then the series obviously is over.
Oh my God.
So that's like,
Tatum
I think that's
get going with Wes Matthews on him too.
Yeah. That's another
problem, man. Scary. He should have abused Wes Matthews. I don't know.
Well, he did 3 years ago. Remember when, like, in the Pacers Celtics first round series in 2019, like, Matthews was like toast in that series.
I have to watch again, because it's possible that with Matthews pressing, I would love to see, like, from Tatum's point of view, maybe it's like he's like, oh yeah, I'll go buy him, only to have Lopez.
Right. I mean, you're right. There was a lot. Yeah. He had a crowd waiting for him everywhere, but then there just wasn't. His reads were just not as sharp as they needed to be. I mean, and then he was 2 of 9 from 2-point range himself. Got to the free throw line 8 times, so not a huge knock on that, but it was a subpar offensive game for him for sure, from that standpoint. And so I don't know. So, like, I agree with you from the offensive standpoint. They need to tighten things up. Like I say, just play harder, like make better reads, and find the great shots, and figure out ways, like drive kick a couple times, try to get the crowd at least moving around out of the paint, so they can't just like camp there the whole time. And then that's when you actually might get some like better looks there, or draw some fouls and things like that can get you out of this offensive rut.
I mean, I think guys like Grant and Pritchard too, if they hit 2 or 3 threes, like Grant did in the first half, like, they're gonna have to get out of the paint. Like, they're gonna have to guard these guys. And so I think what happened was today they hit a couple, and then they didn't hit none of them. No one hit anything. You know what I mean? And they said, we're just gonna press up on you, like, if you're out there trying to pass, we're gonna be up in you. But if you're trying to shoot, go ahead. We don't think you can make them. And so I think that'll change a little bit, hopefully in game 2.
Defensively, do you change, like, how do you handle Giannis in game 2 in terms of, like,
I really like the way they handled him. I maybe I'm the only one, but I mean, I just Giannis is going to Giannis, right? And so the fact that he was getting to the rim and not hitting, I thought was a testament to how they guarded him. I mean, I think the only adjustment is they need to stop overreacting, especially guards. What are you going to do? What is Marcus Smart going to do on the help on Giannis, other than take a charge? But I saw him like trying to contest from behind. It's like, no, man, get to your guy, or at least like play a passing lane, because take that option away, and let Robb and Al try to, build a wall.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they have to be a lot smarter in terms of who they help off of. Like, Smart, to your point, like, he was helping off of Grayson Allen, like, one pass away. They're like, that's like, no, that's the one guy. Like, you should be taking Grayson Allen out of the game if you're Marcus Smart, and you have
totally.
And so the guys you can help off of, it's like, help off of Brook Lopez from, like, when he's at 3. He hasn't been shooting it well all year. Wes Matthews, I don't think has much consistently left. Certainly not at the TD Garden. Like, I'll let him take those shots all day. He was 1 of 6 today from 3.
Yeah.
And then, like, Javon Carter, obviously, like, he hit that one in transition, but you're going to live with that shot the rest of the time. But, like, Allen, Connaughton, I'm sticking to. He can, like, hit down. He's shown he can hit those shots in the Garden. And then, Portis and Drew Holiday too. Those are guys I'm not letting those guys be with wide open shots when I can get a decent contest on Giannis, to your point, like, with just one guy helping by the rim, as opposed to 3 flying in from, the strong side.
Exactly. I'd rather have another weak side person, like if Rob comes over to try to battle someone getting a tip in. Like if Portis is there or like Brooks there or someone is down low, they're going to get the ball, you know? So I'd rather have, you know, on a Giannis miss, I'd rather have them like try to crash down and box rather than like come from behind, you know, and be nowhere near him. Like that's the worst part. It's like, you know, you can contest a 6'5" guy who's fading. You can't contest Giannis when he's fading or moving. His arms are too long. His, you know, everything is too long. So,
all right. Well, that's about it for us for game one. Game two coming up. So you feel good about game two, or you think just? I mean, it's the Bucks are officially favored in this series in Vegas. Not a surprise. Just, you know, getting home court advantage back on their sides here. But no, this is, I don't know. This was shades of past playoff nightmares coming back in terms of how this team played offensively today. It's the bigger sample size says that like this was just one bad one. But I don't know. This makes me think like, oh, this could be bringing up ghosts of the past here.
Yeah, you certainly don't feel good, but just keep in mind 1 p.m. start on a Sunday. Scott Foster, Ed Malone, you know, like just Giannis, just weirdness, wonkiness all over the place, and freak weird injuries that I don't think are big deals, but like, you know, Smart got the, you know, the weird shoulder thing, and then all of a sudden it was like, yeah, but his quad is worse. It's like, oh, thanks, Ime, that sounds great. and then obviously. You know, Jalen's hamstring. So let's hope by Tuesday, like they're feeling a little bit better. This is such a cop out, but like I'll know everything I need to know about this series after next game. And I think they'll win. I think they'll sort of have the reverse. I think they'll win pretty handily, to be honest with you, because I just don't think Portis is going to play as well. I don't think Allen's going to play as well. And I think they're going to play with more effort and they're going to shoot a little bit better. And if you add those two things, this is neck and neck, you know?
Yeah.
And now I'm just saying a little bit. I'm not even saying they're going to dominate, you know, because, you know, there's a time where anyone, you know, the Celtic stars could go supernova. So, and they haven't done it, obviously, in this game. And so if they just play a little bit better, it's a much closer game. And so I'm predicting at home, you know, a night start. They just more back in the routine. They're going to have more film to watch on these guys. They know how, at least in the playoffs, they're going to play them. I predict they'll be ready.
I'm with you since I had them in 6. So this series
still looking good. Still looking okay.
If they lose Tuesday, the series, the series is over if they lose Tuesday. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that is what it is. But yeah, like everything in terms of the effort standpoint and the urgency standpoint, if that, like you said, that should tell us all you need to know about where they are. So
how would you feel if they won Tuesday and won game 3? So they won back.
Right.
Are you completely flipped? Well, I guess it depends on how, but say they won by 1 point each, you know what I mean? Total points. No, how are you feeling going into game 4?
Fine. I feel good about the Celtics in 6 prediction initially. So this is just a reminder of like, this was just like, oh, yep, Giannis is still the best player in this series.
Oh, not only that, I totally forgot to bring this up. I made a joke on Twitter earlier. This is the first time they're playing a coach too.
Yeah. Like, this is true. It's like, oh, yep, this is, they kind of had you mapped out. They had counters, they have continuity. And
there was that crazy play. First of all, two plays. Oh my God. I can't believe I didn't bring this up earlier. Sorry. I know we're supposed to do a quick hitter, but like I have to bring this up.
No, please.
The 2 plays, one where they did some stupid misdirection, really stupid baseline misdirection. And Portis was just standing there under the rim and they threw it to him and he got a layup. Like,
oh yeah, I know that play. Yeah.
It's just like, I need to watch it again and be like, who was supposed to cover who? Like, but it was just like that can't happen. But that was obviously a coaching.
So what happened? Well, I think on that play, it was a miscommunication. Like Tatum and Brown were supposed to like switch.
Yep.
And then Brown was like, they crossed wires, and by the time Brown figured it out, like Portis is wide open there.
Yeah.
And then they had another play. This may be the other one you're thinking of, where on an inbounds.
Oh, I know.
They stacked Wes it. Matthews. And then, Wes Matthews just like came over. No one picked him up.
So
was like, okay, I'll just go lay this in. And Derek
White
was like,
at the TV.
Crap. Yeah. So that's like what is going on here. And so I don't, like crap like that is clearly when guys' heads are just not in the game, or they're too wrapped up in one guy to, think about the big picture here.
But I think you got to give Coach Bud like props too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like he was coaching. He called good timeouts. You know what I mean? It was completely different from Steve Nash. And I don't mean to dump on him. Like that series was over because they kind of just crapped out, but like he's right now, Budenholzer is much better than Steve Nash.
Steve Nash, yeah. No, I mean, he's taken a lot of crap over the years, but he silenced everyone last postseason run, and now, like you said, in the series, it looked like they just had a master defensive game plan in place, and hit all the Celtics pressure points and got them playing their worst offense of the year and the biggest game of the year so far. So that will be a matchup to watch the rest of the way. B-Jax, we will be checking in with you for the remainder of the postseason. Make sure you're following him on Twitter at JackSOBD. And you can email him there too at BC if you want. Jack, thanks for coming on.
Anytime, man. Thanks for having me.
And we'll be back with you guys after game 2 for, I don't know, Jack, we're going to do like 3 pods to break down game 2.
Yeah, I know.
There's 3 off days.
I'm going to go on vacation.
Right.
But no, hey, listen, with lingering injuries, I'll take any time off.
Sure.
Right? So.
I'll take it. And that'll feel a lot better going to Milwaukee 1-1 as opposed to 3 days to think about this season potentially being over there. So stay tuned for that. We'll be reacting to it either way. And thanks for listening.